Testing. I put on lotion and then the sprinklers got me wet, and so I'm slippery. Is this frustration right about now? I don't know. We're gonna get into it though. Back again. I'm not too frustrated about it, but it's just something that kind of alters my state of being in a way that I wouldn't recommend. That's just this particular situation, but I mean this on an energetic level. So before we get into this topic, I want to thank everyone for listening and tuning in. Every one of y'all are important to me because some of my videos only have like 3 views, but to me that's everything. Even if it's someone that I know or not, being able to express myself in this way is fulfilling for me. So I love if someone else can receive that and hopefully learn from it, regardless if it's the full video through, which I would recommend, or if it's just like 2 minutes because you want to see how I talk, you know what I'm saying? But regardless of the point, I'm thankful. And I want you to know, like I mentioned before, occasionally, but in my videos, when I speak about things that I know are contradicting to what the customs are used to, and use it in an energy of just being real about it, I know that it can be uncomfortable, and a lot of people don't know how to connect to that off bat. But I feel like a lot of people are going to learn to balance that out and be open and honest and express these realms just as good as they would express something to be proud of as well. It's just an energy signature, and that's what we need to recognize. They all play their role. Today, though, we're talking about frustration. And like I mentioned, I want to speak on the energy of it, like how it could play out in this realm. And I also want to speak on what causes it, so you know how to like balance yourself in those circumstances, because like I mentioned, they all play their role, but in those moments you have to know how to react, because that's the only thing you can control. So frustration for me is just something that growing up I've always like been accustomed to frustration over happiness. Not saying that I wasn't happy. I feel like my childhood was very joyous, but it still took a lot of balancing for just myself and being who I was. I don't speak on it often, but like just growing up, it took a lot for me to get comfortable with who I was. Not like I didn't appreciate who I was, but it was just so many depths to me, like that made me feel like out of this world and no connection to people surrounding me, so there's no one to really talk about. And that's just the biggest thing. It's not as if I was like, I am an alien, but it wasn't as if I couldn't be understood. I had to learn how to express myself, because like I mentioned, this is a good source for me to express myself, because I feel like I can be free. I can be myself, and the people that attract to it are the people that organically roll with me, rather than people that are trying to figure me out. You feel me? And even if you're trying to figure me out, being open to this different perspective or this free thought is what everybody is here for, because everybody's perspective is valid. So with me, I try to connect to other people, but I want to be frank about mine. Like frustration with me is always something that I knew well. I knew how to let people know I was frustrated. I knew how to get my point across without having to talk to them. I knew how to linger in that realm. And as I got older, still linger in that realm to where I wasn't causing intentional negative karma, but I was still lingering in a place that was not, I would say, beneficial now or positive. Like I would be angry if someone did me wrong. I would be angry and frustrated, and I would want them to feel what they did to me. And I realize now that overall, some people might not. You could go out your way to try to prove that to someone, and what you're going to end up doing for sure is hurting yourself. So it's not worth the risk, and I don't think it's worth the energy. If you can let it go, then that's the best route to do, and just let it completely filter out, and then you can try something new, because that's what I learned. And a lot of times is people want to stay in that place of frustration, because in frustration you can find comfort. Like I mentioned, growing up, that's always something that I was used to, or that I was able to recognize and project to other people. But now, as I'm realizing energy and the strength and the power behind your intentions and your energy and the energy that you want to receive, how that was reflected off of your being, like your true being on the inside, the part that you can't show people. I mean, you could show them in actions, or like you're frustrated or whatever. You could show them that you're frustrated by being standoffish, but you can't really express those type of emotions beyond just a word aspect, and even that is so vague. So my principle is just to mention that, like, certain things will never be able to be portrayed, but people could still recognize just off of you expressing yourself and your situation. As I'm starting to get older, though, I'm seeing that if I want to receive a certain type of energy, even if it may be uncomfortable for me to accept right now, if I know in time that's what I want to receive, I love to see people walking around these times, because I am frustrated. Like, in these times that I need to still want to project in a way that's positive so I can receive that, I have to remember that everyone just don't think the same way. And that's a very frustrating thing to have to accept, because it's altering me and what my beliefs and my morals are. Like, I go to the store yesterday and they have people standing out in a line, like, before you get to the grocery store now, and it's just ridiculous that, I don't even like to mention it too much, but it's ridiculous that the people that don't necessarily agree with that are still having to abide to that. Because me, I don't want to be a problem. Like, if I go and I was like, man, I ain't waiting in line. Like, everybody going in the store, if they had coronavirus or whatever, we would catch it regardless. I want to be in that energy, and I think I'm very vocal in expressing my dissatisfaction for the way that it's controlling people, because people don't even really realize what they're doing. Like, I asked them, like, if people are still going in there regardless, that coronavirus is going to stick with them either way. Like, and now people walking around with masks. Like, my mom got on her bandana and stuff. It's my mom's birthday, by the way. But those elements to me are just always frustrating, and I still have to recognize that if I'm portraying a negative or a contrast energy, I need to portray it in a positive light in order to even allow it to be received to people. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be received. There's going to be people that don't like the fact that you're in contrast with them off jump. And they go out, and it could be energetic or physically. They will go out their way to let you know that as well. So you have to be careful when you're expressing yourself, and especially expressing like a negative, like frustration, something that can alter people in a not so positive way. Oh, it's a beautiful bird. And the reason why I say that is because of those reasons. You have to be careful, because what you give out is what you're going to end up receiving. So in these places of being frustrated, how would I say that it come to be because of the fact that I can't alter certain circumstances, but it's still altering me. So anything in life that you feel like you have no control over is going to stem from a energy of frustration. So in this life, it's going to be a lot of things you can't control. That's obvious. But learning how to react in a way where you still are grounded is controlled in the reaction type of a form. So when you're thinking in that energy of frustration, you have to remember that your reaction, it is going to affect more than just that moment. And that's also a test of saying how grounded you are in yourself and your beliefs. Because if you're really grounded in that, you don't have to prove that to anyone, frankly. And even if you don't say it verbally, you'll be able to prove it to them in action. And that's the best way to do it. But as I ponder on just frustration, because that's something that's very lively in me at this moment, I also cope with it by trying to distract myself and indulge in things that are also negative. So that's how you know it's stemming from a negative vibe, because what you do, even trying to get out of it, is going to be a negative form. So it's like it entraps you. It entraps you, and that doesn't mean that that's a negative thing. It's entrapping you because you're forced to deal with it. And frustration is another thing. When you're reacting in a way where you're feeling not happy about it, but you react in a way where it's get your point across in a way that doesn't have to harm anyone, that'll project in a more beneficial way energetically for you. So as I grow, I'm just starting to see how people will go out their way to prove and justify what I'm saying. And only thing I can preach to you is just to remember that if you know yourself, that confidence level should not be altered too much to where you're not being in your true version of yourself. And just know that regardless of what people can perceive, you still have to feel these emotions for yourself and balance that within yourself before you can do anything for anybody else. So frustration is not necessarily a negative thing, but if you don't use it to your benefit, then it could really alter everything. And that's a very powerful energy. So I thought that I'd just break that down and also express what I'm going through on the daily, and Y'all already know every Friday we dropping something new. So we're going to see as this thing progress, how life happens, and obviously we're going to have to adapt to it. And that's the biggest picture. Just make sure you stay true to you.